Ben Johnson addressed the Chicago Bears as a team in person for the first time this week. And he set the tone, raising expectations for success early and often.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On the show today, we'll hear from some Chicago Bears team leaders about how Ben Johnson addressed them all for the first time, what the expectations are, what kind of tone he is setting as the leader of the team and the football franchise. We'll hear about what the expectations are for Dennis Allen's defense and for Caleb Williams and how Ben Johnson's already giving Caleb and the quarterbacks an early test just in their first week of having off-season workouts together. Because the Bears off-season program began this week, and all it is for now is just like workouts and weightlifting, right? They're not doing on-the-field work. They're not really doing playbook, game plan, scheme work. It's purely get everybody in the building, have team meetings and speeches about expectations and what how we're going to carry a business and operate around the building, and then, lift weights and work out and do gymnasium physical type work here, but not on the field, no pads, no helmets, no formations, no lineups here. But it was the first time then that players were all in the building for Ben Johnson to be able to address in person. And he gave his first big team speech about what he wants the team to do, what he sees the expectations as, how he wants to approach this upcoming season. And Jaylen Johnson was able to give us some peeks behind the curtain as far as some of the stuff Ben Johnson said and how it was received among players in the room.
But I think overall just setting the tone for what we want to do this year and really just having a sense of urgency right now, not just waiting and going through a process and figuring out what we're going to do, but establishing who we are right now and then working towards that goal. Really just the mindset of winning and winning right now and winning a certain type of way too. I think just having that dominating mentality is something that I took from the team meeting, and it starts now. It starts with the work that we put in. It starts with gelling and being cohesive and understanding what they're going to be asking from us, especially on defense, just understanding the mentality, understanding the mindset and identity that we're going to establish, and really just chasing that throughout the offseason, throughout the training.
Are you the type of guy who gets fired up in April by a new coach? I know the answer to this, but I'm asking anyway.
I've been through it too many times, man. I'm going to get excited when we win in November and December and we change some things and get to the playoffs. That's when I'll be excited. But
as an extension of that, the next 5 months are going to be all about talk and hype and excitement and energy. How do you navigate that, knowing your mindset and not really being bought into all that stuff?
That don't got nothing to do with me. The only thing that has anything to do with me is the work that I put in, the work that we put in as a unit, and just taking the steps in the right direction. Other than that, the talk, the hype and all that, hype don't win you no games. So, I've been here a minute. I've been through the hype, and we don't win no games. So, for me, if it's not about winning, quite honestly, I don't really care about it.
I really appreciated having Jaylen Johnson specifically as the messenger there, right? And getting his perspective on a new coaching staff coming in, because Jaylen Johnson was brought in during the Matt Nagy era and then went through the Matt Eberflus era. And now this is his third head coach with the Chicago Bears. He has heard multiple coaches come in and say, yeah, we're going to win and we're going to do all this stuff and we're going to be great. And he's kind of at this point where it's like, yeah, fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, now 3 times, shame on me. Like he's frustrated, and all he really cares about is, can we actually win this time? Like, hype doesn't matter unless we're winning games. And I'll get excited in October and November, right? Like, he's sort of playing this sort of skeptical, hard to get kind of role here, right? Like, yeah, not that he's not bought in, right? But he's just like, I'm not going to get too overhyped or excited until we actually start winning some football games, but everything else so far is all nice to hear. And there's definitely a difference there from Ben Johnson being like, not just, hey, we want to win, but we want to dominate, right? We're not going to win by, we don't just want to win by 1 point. We want to win by 21 points. We want to impose our will and show our opponents not just that we're better than them, but that we are significantly better than them, how much better we are, so that there is no doubt about, well, coulda, shoulda, woulda won the game, gone differently. Like, no, this is clearly the better football team beat the lesser football team. But even in Jaylen Johnson's comments there, I think there's a little bit of a discrepancy between his words there and his actions here. Because, yeah, he can play hard to get in that sense and say, like, yeah, I'm not going to get too excited until we start winning football games. But at the same time, Jaylen Johnson did not have to be there. This is a voluntary offseason workout time. This is specifically a time that last year and in years past, Jaylen Johnson has opted not to come to. We would recall that under the Matt Eberflus era, like when it was voluntary programs, attendance would be mixed. And it wasn't that big of a deal because other teams have mixed attendance for their voluntary workout programs and stuff. But for Ben Johnson, right away, year one, Jaylen Johnson's there. Caleb Williams is there. DJ Moore is there. Cole Kmet is there. Rome Odunze is there, right? Like, we don't have a full list of attendance, and I'm sure there are some players who weren't able to attend for whatever reason because it's not mandatory. It's voluntary. They're not paid extra to be there. It's not something they have to do. But Jaylen Johnson said he came to this specifically to show respect, as a sign of respect to the coaching staff, to come in and say, hey, I respect you and I want to see what you can do for us and how you're going to help us win football games. And that to me speaks louder than the specific things he says about, winning and the hype isn't that big of a deal. Like, if it wasn't that big of a deal, I don't know that he would have shown up for it the way that he didn't show up for it in the past. And I'm not even like critical of him for not showing up for it in the past, but it shows from him an extra level of respect for Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen and the new coaching staff to come in for this, compared to when he and other players, not just Jaylen Johnson, did not come in for the same type of offseason stage under Matt Eberflus. Like, I don't know that Jaylen Johnson has a lot to gain by being here for these workouts. He can work out at home. He knows his teammates. They're not working on scheme stuff. Right? All he's there for is to hear from the coaching staff and to be there and to show that, hey, I am bought in and I want to show you that I support this and am a team player and a leader who is there for my teammates. And that to me was almost more important than anything Jaylen Johnson said there about winning and whatnot. Jaylen Johnson, though, also showed his excitement in what Dennis Allen's defense is going to allow him to do, specifically like differently from what he was asked to do in Matt Eberflus's defense. So we'll take a look at some of the stuff that does get Jaylen Johnson excited, even though he still wants to see the winning and all that, next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Because right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Whether that's on the NBA playoffs or if you want to look and bet on the NFL draft, you can bet on what position the Bears are going to take with their first pick. You can bet on which offensive lineman or which running back is the first player off the board at their respective positions, and so much more. Plus, you can bet on baseball, hockey, soccer, tennis, boxing, all of your favorite sports, all in the FanDuel app that makes it super easy to use. Plus, even if you want to join in the action after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for an even bigger chance to win. Just make sure you don't miss out and head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So Jaylen Johnson may be playing a little coy, a little frustrated, a little skeptical, whatever it might be about, we've heard exciting rah-rah coach speeches before. Let's win some football games. But clearly, he has a lot of respect for Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen. And I also think Dennis Allen in particular, coming in as his defensive coordinator, will be a nice change of pace for him and a few others in this defense from what Matt Eberflus had asked them to do. We already think of Matt Eberflus as more of a conservative, zone-heavy type of defensive coordinator who doesn't blitz a ton and only kind of rushes 4. And we know Dennis Allen will be more aggressive than that. There's different types of aggression, and we can get into a little bit of what that looks like, because it's not just do you blitz or do you not, but also coverage-wise, what aggression and what aggressiveness can look like in that regard. But it does feel to me like the things Dennis Allen is going to ask Jaylen Johnson to do, and also I think Tyreek Stevenson in a similar light, will be better fits for their skill set, what they were good at in college and early in their careers, and what we've seen them be better at throughout their careers, being able to do more of that skill set. So here's how Jaylen Johnson describes some of his excitement for what he wants to do in Dennis Allen's defense. I know he gets a little bit quiet here, but so the spoiler alert, I'll have you hear it, but he talks about playing more man-to-man coverage and also being able to shadow other teams' number 1 wide receivers and follow them all over the field. Your job is line up against him and shut him down. Here's how Jaylen Johnson describes it.
Jaylen, how about style of play? You've played in a couple different styles of defense here. What have you been able to see, watch, or how do you feel like this would suit your skill set?
You lock up the number 1 guy, number 1 on number 1. So, for me, that's what I'm looking forward to doing. That's what I look forward for the most. That's what I train for. That's what I work hard for. So, for me, it's just going to be about that, being ready to go out there and lock up, challenge guys, make things hard on the offense, mess up timing, and then shoot the dogs up front. They got to eat. So, everybody just do what they do best. Dogs eat, and then the guys on the back end we cover.
Jaylen, along those lines,
I expect to, yeah.
Jaylen, along those lines, Dennis Allen has historically played more man coverage than you guys have played around here.
Sure.
Are you looking forward to playing a little bit more man than maybe you have in the past?
Yeah, that's what I feel like I'm best at.
You can see it and also just hear Jaylen Johnson kind of crack a smile in there, right? Like getting a little bit excited about, hey, it's my job to just shut that guy down and be one-on-one and disrupt the quarterback. Like that stuff he didn't have as many opportunities to do in Matt Eberflus's defense, and will definitely get more opportunity to do in Dennis Allen's defense. And we should say, too, like, Tyreek Stevenson comes in with a similar sort of profile, right, of a cornerback who we've seen at his best in one-on-one press man coverage up at the line of scrimmage, where he can be physical from the start, bump a guy off his route, and stay in his hip pocket all the way up and down the field. Especially for Tyreek Stevenson, I think, not asking him to sort of backpedal and read route concepts and read the quarterback and have to sort of read and react in that regard. Like you're just on this man. You just follow him wherever he goes. Don't let him out of your sight. Don't let him away from you. Like it can be a little bit more, it's certainly like almost harder, but also simpler, right? Like more difficult, but less complicated to do. And I think that's something we've seen both of these Bears cornerbacks do at a high level and should absolutely get more opportunity to do that with Dennis Allen as their defensive coordinator than Matt Eberflus as their defensive coordinator. But I want to make sure we put in the proper context here, like just how much more, because I think we hear this thrown around a lot. Like, yes, the Bears are going to run more man coverage with Dennis Allen. They're going to be a man coverage heavy defense under Dennis Allen. But like, what does that actually mean? Like, what does that actually look like? And I think it can be, there's 2 different ways you can slice this, where on the one way comparatively, oh, well, that's not that much man coverage. And on the other side, it's like, oh, okay, maybe that's more than I thought it would be. So you look at Dennis Allen's defenses with the New Orleans Saints the last few seasons. They run man coverage about a third of the time, anywhere from 32 to 34% of their passing plays, they were in man coverage. When you think about it over the course of the season, only 1/3 of the time in man coverage, so 2/3 of the time they're in zone. That's still like the majority of the time you're still going to be in zone coverage, right? It's not like Jaylen Johnson is going to be stuck in one-on-one on Justin Jefferson all game and just follow him everywhere he goes up and down the field. Like he might shadow a player like Justin Jefferson pre-snap, but if the play is zone coverage after the snap, he's not going to follow him in man coverage all over the field. Like that's not necessarily how Dennis Allen is going to approach that. You're still going to run zone coverages, a variety of zone coverages, but usually cover 3. The majority of your snaps are still zone coverage. This is among the most man coverage of teams in football. Like the Bears, Dennis Allen Saints were always like in the top 10 rate of man coverage. From the spectrum of NFL teams, it's a high amount of man coverage, but it's still only about a third of the time. So you say, well, that's not that much. But you compare it to like what the Bears were doing under Matt Eberflus. The last 2 seasons, they were around 17, 18, 19%. So Dennis Allen's defense run man coverage almost twice as much as what the Bears were doing under Matt Eberflus. Like, it will be a significant difference. You'll see them be significantly more aggressive in that way and from a coverage standpoint. But it's not like it's throw all your zone technique out of your brain. You don't need to worry about that anymore because we're just going man to man all the time, baby. Like, not quite that much either. Like, it's there's still going to be plenty of zone coverage and times when you want to be in zone and it's important to be in zone. If you just ran man to man all the time, it would be really easy for offenses to figure out how to beat you. There's route concepts you can run to just try and beat man coverage. You can have your crossing routes, etc., to try and make life difficult in man coverage. They mix it up quite a bit. Still going to be primarily a single high defense. Cover 1 was the go-to concept for the Saints, followed by cover 3. Like, it's going to be a lot of one deep safety, one safety's underneath, either in man or zone coverage there. So there's going to be some familiarity in that regard, and there's still going to be plenty of zone for familiarity. But I think using guys like Johnson and Stevenson in more pure man coverage, cover 1, cover 0, cover 2 man, maybe some bracket type coverage situations, can help you get more out of those skill sets and put them in more advantageous positions more often to really shut a guy down and take a player out of a play and be able to use some of their physical skill sets at the position that they weren't always able to use as much of under Matt Eberflus. That's what we talk about Dennis Allen's defense being more aggressive, right? Yeah, he is going to blitz a little more than Matt Eberflus did, but it's not going to be Brian Flores level blitzing either. But playing more man coverage is also more of an aggressive style of coverage, because when you think about Eberflus in zone, we say all the time, bend, don't break. You'll play off in zone. You might allow the catch, but then you'll make the tackle so he's not getting a first down, and the other team can kind of work their way downfield, but you're never really giving up big plays because you're keeping everything in front of you in zone, and then you'll hold up in the red zone or wherever to force them to a field goal. But for Dennis Allen, when you're playing more man coverage, there's more risk there. It's a little more all or nothing. Instead of, we'll give up the short completion and rally and tackle, in man coverage, it's Jaylen Johnson one-on-one, or it's Tyreek Stevenson one-on-one, and there's not much safety help. So if he gets beat, it's a big play. He's gone. Like, there's not a lot of backup plan help there. Like, that's when we think about a conservative defense versus an aggressive defense. Like, the conservative defense has contingencies there where if he gets behind your zone, you've got a safety back there, right? Or if they complete the pass underneath, everyone rallies and tackles. But when you're one-on-one in man coverage deep down the field, it's just you versus him. And sometimes you're going to get beat. And sometimes that's going to mean more big plays that the defense gives up. But you hope that the big plays you allow are then outweighed by the plays you shut down. When Jaylen Johnson takes a number 1 player out of a play, or Tyreek Stevenson's bump and run coverage disrupts the quarterback's timing so he can't throw the ball when he wants to in the pass rush and get home. Like, that's the trade-off between a more aggressive, more man coverage defense of Dennis Allen versus the more conservative, more zone-heavy defense from Matt Eberflus. And I think Jaylen Johnson's pretty excited about getting to be more aggressive in that side of the ball. On offense, Caleb Williams pretty excited about what Ben Johnson's going to have him do on offense, already getting quizzed and tested in the first week of working with his new head coach and working on some fundamental changes to what Caleb Williams does and how he's going to be lining up under center. We'll take a look at what Caleb Williams is working on now and how Ben Johnson is already quizzing and testing his quarterback next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at Chewy. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet healthcare, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable. They have over 100,000 products from all of your favorite brands. From treats to toys to beds and grooming, and not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds and fish and reptiles and all sorts of different kinds of small pets. Chewy also makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions and telehealth visits and even in-person vet clinics rolling out nationwide. If you want to make sure you never run out of stuff, they've got an auto shipping feature where you can set up automatic deliveries for food or treats or any essentials so that you never run out. It always arrives at your doorstep right when you need it. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in our description. That's $20 off your first order and free shipping by clicking our link in the description. Minimum purchase required, new customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. So Jaylen Johnson is particularly excited about playing in Dennis Allen's defense, and you can imagine Caleb Williams is also pretty darn excited about Ben Johnson's offense. He's coming into this embracing the change, having gone through plenty of ups and downs in his rookie season. He is locked into what Ben Johnson and company are trying to teach him. And a big part of that is going to be, hey, like, you're still going to play a lot of shotgun, but there's going to be more times when you need to be directly under the center to snap the ball there so that you can work different kinds of play action off of that. And it puts different stresses on defenses when you're running the offense from under center versus in the shotgun. Again, Jared Goff in Detroit did plenty of shotgun. They're not going to force Caleb Williams to be this purely under center passer, especially if he's not as comfortable in that role. They're still going to make this offense tailored to Caleb. I almost said tailored to Caleb. Tailored to Caleb and what works best for him. But I think part of what can work best for him is getting him under center more and being able to build structure off of that under center footwork. And I think maybe most importantly is, so I felt so often with the Bears, this was especially bad under Luke Getsy, but we saw it under Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown too, is like when the Bears would go under center, they were running the ball like 65, 70% of the time. It was a tell for the defense that when the Bears would line up under center, they're probably going to run the ball here because the majority of the time they're under center, they run the ball. And when they were in shotgun, they passed the ball 75, 80% of the time. Like when they were shotgun, they were less likely to run and a lot more likely to pass. It was too easy for the offense to the defense to kind of have an assumption of, hey, I think I know what kind of play they might be calling here. But for Ben Johnson, he's going to want to run under center quite a bit. And so you also want your play action to look like your running play. Right? You want it to look the same to the defense, so they're not sure, are you actually going to hand it off, or are you running play action off of this? And so when the Bears were running play action on a shotgun, but not running as much on a shotgun, it was less convincing. It was less difficult for the defense to read. And so when Caleb Williams is under center more and running that under center play action, it's going to look so much like the regular under center handoffs that the defense is going to be more confused. It's going to be a harder sell on the play action for those guys to be able to adjust. And Tremaine Edmonds talked yesterday about how Ben Johnson's offense kind of messes with the defense's eyes and trying to figure out where the ball is and where you're supposed to be reading and what's going on. Like part of that, it comes with the quarterback being under center. And so even though they're not on the field working through that footwork and those play action handoffs and fakes together just yet, Caleb Williams is already putting in the work into preparing for being under center and what that needs to look like on the field, so that's all second nature, and he can really focus on the important details of what coverage are they in, what's the pass rush looking like, what's actually happening on this play, besides just the basics of what am I supposed to do with my feet.
Yeah, Ben said last week that this offense is going to likely require you to go under center more. At this point of the offseason, what does that preparation look like?
It's just it's the whole thing. It's working. Getting up to the line, and it's like visualizing, like getting up to the line, saying the cadence, being under center, controlling those things, going over the routes, concepts, the footwork in your head in the off season, so that when those times hit and it's fourth quarter and you can't think about those things and you can't focus on those things. It's second nature, second habit, first nature, first habit of doing that and getting under there and going through the cadence, going through the huddle sequence, getting up to the line, making checks if needed, or anything like that. So it's practicing those things now, visualizing those things now, and building on those.
Do you get a sense for how Ben is going to push you out of your comfort zone as a coach?
Yeah. Today we had our first quiz in the QB room, and it's not like a real quiz where you go up and write stuff. It's just us. We went over a few things yesterday, talked about a few things, and Ben walked in this morning, flung open the door, made a grand entrance, and then we got to work of him testing us about what we talked about yesterday and things like that. So already first day in and challenging us, and everybody loves a challenge in this sport. It's one of the great things about the sport. Every day is a challenge, and today we got our first one.
So you like to see how Ben Johnson has Caleb Williams already even just mentally working through these very sort of fundamental basics of how he's supposed to line up, what things are going to do, so that when they actually do get on the field together, he's already got a pretty good baseline of where that starts. And then you just put the physical together with the mental, and you can be off to the races there very, very quickly. I also like how Ben Johnson is setting the tone right away by challenging him, by coming in and saying, hey, were you paying attention? Like, how are we doing here? This is not a, it's not, like he said, it's not like a real quiz per se, and it's not a high stakes quiz, but it's, perhaps a little bit more like friendly, but still it's sort of this like, hey, like we could be buddy playing around, like patting each other on the back and saying, hey, look at how great everything's going to be. But no, let's get to work. Like, let's take this seriously from day one. And like, maybe the idea of taking this thing that maybe isn't so important, showing you that, hey, every detail matters. Like, we're going to take this seriously. You should be paying attention to everything. We're not just sort of lollygagging or skimping around and saying, oh, well, everybody go around the room and say one icebreaker about themselves, right? Like, they're not wasting time here. We got to start winning football games and winning them now. And enough of the hype and energy. Like, hey, what did we talk about yesterday? Remember, like, let's make sure everyone is dialed in from the start so that you're not wasting any little opportunity here. Like, this is the kind of stuff you want to see Ben Johnson come in and establish right away from the get-go, how things are going to be and what the expectations are going to be for players, so that you don't have the likes of Jaylen Johnson thinking, here we go again. No, it's like, oh no, this is different. These guys are different. This is real winning culture. This is really not just words, but actions that end up resulting in wins. Like, that's what we need to see. We at least want to know it's going to be different, right? It's not going to be the same old Bears making the same old mistakes with the same old coaches, not taking things seriously enough or whatever it might be, not having accountability, not doing X, Y, and Z the right way. Because we heard Matt Eberflus talk about discipline and, working hard and effort and all that stuff. Like, we wanted to hear that. That's all great stuff that you want to hear, but you got to see that follow through with action and success. And Ben Johnson still needs to earn that too, right? Yes, the players are buying in. The players are excited. The players are giving him every opportunity to succeed. But until you start winning, as Jaylen Johnson said, like, hype is not the same as wins. So we can really get excited when they start winning. But hey, it's just nice to have football players around Hallis Hall again, talking football, not helping us forget that real regular season football is still, 5-6 months away before action really starts taking off here. But just because, we're still months away from the regular season doesn't mean the Locked On Bears podcast isn't still going to be around all offseason long to get us through each and every day. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that includes all of your favorite teams. We got Locked On Bulls, Locked On Cubs, Locked On White Sox, Locked On Blackhawks. If you're a Chicago sports guy, or if you have favorite teams in other cities and other sports, we got all your favorite Locked On Podcast Network teams covered across the NBA, NHL, MLB, and college sports as well. I feel like I left one out there. MLB, NHL, NBA, college. No, those are the big ones, plus NFL football, where we are right now. Make sure you come on back tomorrow and make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.